3, 2.
Welcome to Westchester Jewish Community Services. As a leading agency in providing a comprehensive spectrum of human services, we have been helping people since 1943. We serve all people in Westchester County, regardless of age, income, or ethnicity. We provide a wide variety of essential and dynamic services that make a difference in people's lives. Children, teens, adults, and senior citizens are served by our network of programs located throughout the county. When people come to us for assistance, they become part of the WJCS family. Our highly trained and skilled staff focus on you and your family and are committed to becoming your partner in finding solutions. For more than half a century, we have been connecting people to services that help them overcome mental, physical, or emotional challenges. WJCS is here in your community when you need us.
Welcome to the Ways We Care of Westchester Jewish Community Services. I'm Dale Wang, Director of Community Relations. WJCS is in your community when you need us. We are funded by government grants, UJA Federation, United Way, private individuals, foundations, and corporations. As a parent, there are always anxieties when your child is ready to take a next step or move to a new developmental level. Whether it is the first day of kindergarten, a first sleepover date, getting a driver's license, or applying to college, each milestone brings tensions about separation and independence for both the parents and the child. Families of children with special needs face different challenges and different concerns as their youngsters progress, but the emotions and motivations are often very similar. Tonight's very special program will introduce you to a family who has worked very hard over many years to find satisfying and suitable options for their daughter with developmental disabilities. With the help of New York State, Westchester County, WJCS, and an amazing support group of parents, they have set their daughter on a course toward independence. We hope that their story will inspire other families toward advocacy and action. To let you know a little bit about the community residential care system and how this family got involved and found a satisfying placement for their daughter, I'd like to introduce you to Steve Yellen, who is Assistant Executive Director for Community Residential Care at WJCS. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you, Dale.
Chris Reinhardt, who is Deputy Commissioner with Westchester County's Department of Community Mental Health. Welcome, Chris.
Thanks, Steve.
And Sharon DeSalvo, who is parent of a Hudson Terrace resident. Lauren. Welcome, Sharon, and thank you all for your time tonight. Steve, maybe you can give us a little bit of perspective. We are talking about how parents find places for their young adult and adult children with developmental delays and how they access that type of care. Maybe you can put in perspective what the history of this whole system is.
Sure. Well, our history as an agency has been about 25 years of providing group home services. So when we began, we started by establishing group homes for people who were being deinstitutionalized from state developmental centers. It was a major state initiative at that time, was to move people out of the larger developmental centers into community living arrangements. And we participated very actively with government in establishing some of our initial group homes, and that's how many agencies began in this work. As time went on, there was almost a split between number of people coming into the group homes that were developing from state institutions, as well as individuals coming from home and from family moving into new group homes. And then as time passed, more and more people, almost exclusively now, are really coming from home and from living with their families into some kind of residential living arrangement. So it has really evolved over the last 25 years. It's almost changed about 180 degrees during that time.
Mm-hmm. So the system now expects that people will be cared for in a community residence,
Correct.
in a group home, in a neighborhood setting.
Absolutely.
Okay. And about 5 years ago, there was even another significant change in how this was established within our state. Maybe you could talk a little bit
Sure.
about that.
Just about 5 years ago, Governor Pataki announced New York Cares, which was a major initiative to develop many more new group home, group living arrangements throughout all of New York. And he was looking to accomplish thousands of new residential opportunities. And the main thrust was to assist families who have been caring for their loved ones at home for many years to find the appropriate, suitable residential setting of their choice. And in order to make that happen, the governor announced New York Cares, and it has rolled out for the past 5 years in a very successful manner. So many families who have been waiting for years and years to find placement over the past couple of years have, I think, been very successful in finding the right organization that would provide the right services for their loved one.
When you talk about families waiting over time, and maybe Chris, you want to share in this conversation, the process has been a waiting list, a registry of sorts, and maybe you can fill us in on what that means for families when they get onto a registry, how they get on, and how long a wait they tend to have.
Sure. Westchester County Department of Community Mental Health serves as the single point of entry in Westchester County for individuals who have a developmental disability. So they register with us so that not only can we help them assess what their needs are and how they can find those needs, get those needs met and find the services that they're looking for out in the community, but also so we have a sense of how many people are out there. It really helps in our planning process with New York State so that we aren't in a position where we have many more people all of a sudden who have a need, but we haven't done the development and the planning to make sure that there are resources in the community for those needs. Mm-hmm. So the way someone would get into the registry would be to contact our office, to fill out a registration form and send that in to us, and we would start the process of helping them to determine if in fact they were eligible for OMRDD services, educate them as to what kinds of services there are out there, what the process is to secure those services, and who the providers are that are out there that they can get in touch with to help them get those needs met.
When does someone tend to put themselves on a registry? Is it when a child is born, when a child is diagnosed? Is it as early as that?
It happens at all different times depending on the family. Very often when a child is in school, the family feels that all of their needs are being met, but as they start to reach that age of 13, 14, 15, where they may start to have other kinds of needs, or they may prepare for when they're going to be transitioning out of public school into adult services, they may contact us at that point. Some families wait until their child has graduated from school and they've reached that age of about 21 and they're really an adult and they're looking into adult day services and possibly to the time when they will move out of their parents' home and live in a group home setting or some type of community-based residential program. And they may contact us then, and then there may be other individuals who are living at home with their family, everything is stable, and the family may wait quite a time after that until they feel that they're ready and their adult child at that point is ready to look at other services. But there's no wrong time to contact us. Mm-hmm. Even if you're not looking for services at that time, that's fine. You can go into the registry, and then when the time comes that you are looking for services, you've already done all the paperwork, everything's taken care of, and it just makes it a little bit of an easier process then.
Mm-hmm. What would be, if a family approached you with a young adult child, how long might they wait on a registry for an appropriate placement in a facility?
Well, it would really depend on what they were looking for. We work usually in conjunction with the Hudson Valley DDSO, which is the local state office. We work on finding and assisting them find placement for individuals who are looking for placement within a 2-year period. Mm-hmm. It's hard to really project past that because you never know, things change and circumstances change. So we are really working with a waiting list of individuals who are looking for placement from that point on up to 2 years after that. Not everyone will find placement within that 2 years because they may be looking for something very specific. They may be looking for a specific area of Westchester County. They may be looking for a certain type of house. They may have some particular needs that the number of resources that are out there may not be as great as they are for other people. So it really does vary depending on what they're looking for and what their special needs are.
What is the role of voluntary agencies in providing this type of care? How do you work with the county, work with the state to set this up?
Well, the voluntary agencies in Westchester provide a clear majority of residential services that are available to individuals with developmental disabilities. So we are really one of the major providers, meaning all the voluntary agencies do that. How do we work with government? Well, we work really in 2 ways. One, for any program that we run, when there is a vacancy, we go to the registry and we see who may be looking for service that really may fit the kind of group that we are already providing service to. We obtain the referrals, we meet with families, we screen individuals, and we go through the intake process, so to speak, and then we try to decide who we think would best fit. And the family also has to make a decision whether that placement is proper. When we want to do new development, we also again have to go to the registry, and we have to see to make sure that people who are looking for placement are registered. And again, we go through the same kind of interview and screening process to develop new group homes. So we are very much linked together for both our existing services and for any new services that we want to bring online.
Okay, well, New York Cares gave parents many more options and more control over the future of their children. Chris, why is that so important at this stage when people are young adults? What makes it developmentally important?
Well, I think for 2 reasons. The first, one of the best things about New York State Cares is it really gave parents and individuals with a developmental disability the opportunity to participate in a planning process for where they were going to live. In the past, placement was really done on a more of a crisis basis when someone had to move into a group home because the person who was taking care of them had to go into the hospital or was no longer able to take care of them. And New York State Cares really offered the opportunity for families and their developmentally disabled child to really participate in the planning process, to choose an agency they want to live with, because that's a very long, important relationship, and you want to make that match. Not every agency and not every family matches up. So that's a really important piece, and that was one of the nice things that New York State Cares really did offer families, was that opportunity to really participate in that process. The other thing that makes it so important is that particularly when someone reaches that young adulthood age of 21, 22, 23, it's very developmentally natural for them to move on or transition into a more independent stage of their life. They see their siblings go off to college and then graduate college and go into their own apartments and get jobs and live a more independent life than they did at home. And it's very natural for them to want that, and it's very natural for a family to want that for their child.
So that's a stage at which you probably, as you said, you hear from a lot of parents at that point. Well, Sharon, your daughter Lauren was already 18 in 1998 when they changed this whole system, and despite that, you had been active planning for her future for many years. What types of issues were you looking at when you began this very extensive planning process?
Well, it began many years ago. I was part of a parents group of disabled children, and it was the first time we really got together to talk about our children's needs. And of course what came up was, what will they do when we're not here? And this idea was born of having a house together. We were the parents of children who had played together. They had had activities together for many years. We shared many things. And it was a dream at that time. Of course, our concerns were, where would we go? What would we do? And at that point, we'd never heard of anything like this New York Cares initiative.
Well, at that time, that New York Cares initiative didn't exist.
Right.
The support group helped you to find the parents, to find the families that you felt would be like-minded and be in the same kind of situation you would be when you were at this stage. How did you help each other to reach those next steps as you finished high school, as your daughter was ready to go on beyond the children's services?
Well, as I said, we did things together with our children, and we were always looking for social events for them. And we found FAD, which was a WJCS initiative, where our girls had social events, things that were planned for them that were good developmentally, and that gave them some sense of independence. And it was at that time that we heard about New York Cares. Mm-hmm. It was through the FAD organization, and of course we were a group already, and it was almost like a dream come true to understand that we actually would have the ability to form a house together.
Mm-hmm. So this was really, you were one of the first groups, I think, that actually coalesced and set a goal of establishing a group home together. You formed a core group of 4 young women who would be ready at about the same time to move into the house. What kind of steps did you have to take in order to be able to take advantage of New York Cares? Do you remember the process?
I remember we had a lot of help. Leslie Catan was in charge of the FAD group at that time, and she was a wonderful support person who answered a lot of questions for us. We, of course, got in touch with the Westchester agencies. We were all encouraged to look at the different organizations that would help us to do this. But I think our own personal process was to think about who we could ever entrust our children to, because of course we love them more than life itself, and we wanted to put them in the hands of people who would care for them as well as we would. And we didn't want to settle for less. I think Steve could probably attest to this parent group and how much we wanted for our children.
Mm-hmm. I imagine that you probably went to various agencies and examined their the differences. What were you looking for, aside from wanting to feel that this organization would take care of your child? What kinds of things were important to you and would be important to parents?
I think the first and foremost is the staff. The level of caring of the staff, the level of commitment. And WJCS always gave us a level of commitment that was beyond the expectations I actually had. It was also important to me that when I saw other homes that activity was going on, that the people in the homes were active, viable adults who were doing things, they were working, they had social events, there were calendars in the houses and things that the people could choose from. And it seemed that when we went to the WJCS homes, the people in those homes were caring. The clients in the homes were very active. Mm-hmm. And very happy mm-hmm. with their situations. Mm-hmm. And I felt comfortable. I have to say, part of it was Steve. He's a wonderful person, and getting to know him over all of these years has made me more and more confident. Mm-hmm. And now that we have the house, I'm thrilled.
Great. Well, it certainly has turned into just an amazing residence. Steve, Chris, how do you work together to fulfill the wishes of parents? You know, now that people do have some choices, it might be a little bit more difficult to mm-hmm. fulfill people's dreams. As Sharon has said, it's very hard to imagine that you could be that the magic wand that says you're going to get what you want. What do you do?
Well, one of the things our office does is to really encourage a family who is seeking residential placement to do exactly as Sharon said, to meet with agencies, to take a look at the group homes that they run, to meet the staff, to meet the administration, and also to really think about what it is that's important to them. Not just what they want in the group home for their child, but prioritize those things, because no one group home may be able to meet all of your needs, but you need to know what's really important to you and make sure that the agency that you want to work with or the agencies that you're meeting with know that that's the most important thing or the most important 3 things to you. So I think really, you know, seeing the agencies, seeing the programs that they run, and meeting the people who run those programs is really important, and that's what we really encourage families to do.
Mm-hmm.
We really spend a lot of time both talking with families and listening to families. This is a relationship that's going to last a lifetime. When someone comes into a group home, it's really for long-term care. I mean, that's how we look. It's not transitional. People just don't move in and move out. So we have to develop a comfort level, an understanding, and a real relationship over the long haul. And to be honest with one another about, yes, we can provide certain things, we can meet certain needs, and other things we may not be able to do. And in those cases, we may say, you know, there's another agency out there, there's another organization that would best fit what you're really looking for. But once we both agree that this is the individual we're going to serve, this is the person who's going to come into our, under our umbrella for our services, that's when really the real hard work begins, to really try to figure out what needs to be done over the long haul and how are we going to provide it. And it takes a lot of time and a lot of discussion and a lot of listening on both sides.
And it's that kind of guidance that parents need to look for, because we're not experts at how to run a group home. We may be experts at what our children need, but we needed to look to the organization to tell us when we were going in the right direction, the wrong direction. It was a lot of give and take, and a lot of meetings with many, many people. And but the result of it was so good that I value that process so much. It was an important part of what we did.
Absolutely.
Well, the process of New York State Cares has also put a certain aspect of marketing on the table for agencies. And how actively are we out there recruiting for potential parents who might want to develop this, and then what are they going to be facing?
I think each agency does a little bit of their own marketing, depending on what they're really going to be capable of providing in terms of additional services. When an organization makes a commitment to go forward to develop additional residential settings, we really do go to the list. We start making phone calls, we start talking with families, and we really do get out there and to try to figure out not only what we can do, we've already pretty much figured some of that out, but what people are looking for and where can we meet together to develop the right kind of next residential setting for that next group. It kind of ebbs and flows depending on where the organization is at, but most organizations are to some extent out there, and sometimes we get people who just call us and say, I'm looking for a particular home, would you ever consider developing something new, like what my child may need? And at that point, that may spur us on for some more development also.
Chris, how usual is it for groups of parents to come together like this and to build what they imagine for their children?
Unfortunately, it's not as usual as we would like to see it be. That is really the ideal situation where a group has come together and say, you know, and can say, our children want to live together, because one of the biggest concerns that a family has is, who is my child going to live with? How are they going to fit in? How are they going to mesh with the other people who live there? That was one concern that this group didn't really have. They already knew how the young ladies in this house were going to get together, you know, get along, because they had been getting together for many years. So that's really an ideal situation, and it's one that we really encourage, even if there's, you know, only 2 or 3 families who already know each other and think that their children might like to live together, to, you know, maybe network out or, you know, get introduced to other families. But that's really an ideal situation. It's one we'd like to see happen more frequently, because it really does make the process go a lot smoother once the house does open.
And when there are just 2 or 3 families that would come together, both those families can continue to move on to try to search out others, and the organization can help them in addition to try to find other people who may fit in, developing a very nice cohort of people.
Right. And I guess they were lucky to be among the first from this family advocacy group, which is the FAD group, that really had the opportunity to be reaching this stage, and now we might be growing another group.
We'd
right?
absolutely love to do that, absolutely.
We just have a few more minutes in this half, but I'd like to talk about how these programs get funded and how it works between the individuals in the state and the agencies. So.
Okay. Well, a group home like the Hudson Terrace Group Home is funded through the Home and Community-Based Services Medicaid waiver, which means that they receive federal funding and state funding through Medicaid, so that the funding pays for the care and the staffing in the house and the needs of the house. So it's primarily federally and state funded.
So the parents don't have to put up the money for it.
No.
Each individual going into the home is funded individually for his or her care.
Sure, you would never want a situation where only people who could afford to pay for care would get it. It's really a system that is really open to everyone who meets the eligibility criteria.
Right. So once someone registers with you on the state registry, they learn about all these things that they can access, and the funding is part of that. Anything you want to add to that, Steve, in terms of how things work in terms of funding or anything?
No,
else?
it's relatively straightforward, and it's fairly easy in many ways. Families also, though, can supplement, because there always are other things that their child or relative may want or need that go beyond what we get funded for, and that is an option that is clearly open to families. But the day in and day out cost for operating, as well as the monies for acquisition and renovation of a new group home, all of those come to us via the state and Medicaid.
Well, what should parents, we only have 2.5 more minutes, what should parents of teenagers with special needs be doing to plan and prepare so that it's possible that their children will find placements in the community?
Well, the first thing they should do is register, and they can get information on that at our website at westchestergov.com/mental health, and there's a link for developmental disabilities, and it'll talk about the registry in there. So that's the first thing they could do. The second thing I would say would be to do the kinds of things that Sharon and her family did, and start to be involved in programs that enable them to link to other individuals and families who have a child with a developmental disability.
Do you feel that there will be a limit to the number of homes that will be opened as a result of the New York State CARES program, or is it now pretty accessible to people?
It's as accessible as we've ever seen it in the history of community development. I'm sure everything has a limit at some point, but at this point, so many opportunities have been developed in the community that it's really set the stage for us to have a nice set of resources out there. And for in the future, as people have the needs arise, there are already opportunities out there. So we've developed a nice system, and it's continuing to develop. Even now, there's still programs in development and programs being proposed, and the process is still continuing.
Okay, great. Well, I know in the second half, Sharon and Lauren, and we hope your husband as well, will be talking about how you set your family and got ready. But thank you, Steve, for sharing the information. Can we give a number that people can contact us if they are interested in WJCS services?
Sure. The number that they can call is 761-0600. If they wish to speak to me, my extension is 108. Okay.
And if they want to get in touch with you, Chris, about DCMH services?
They can contact us at 914-995-5256, and that's my extension.
Okay, great. And we hope people will stay tuned to hear a little bit more about how one family's story took their daughter from their home and set her up as an independent young woman in our Hudson Terrace residence. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Ways We Care of Westchester Jewish Community Services. I'm Dale Wang, Director of Community Relations. WJCS is in your community when you need us. We are funded by government grants, UJA Federation, United Way, private individuals, foundations, and corporations. Tonight we are sharing the heartwarming story of determination, trust, and hope and love. We are speaking with a family that has made some very important and life-changing decisions to enable their daughter with special needs to become a more independent young adult. Like any young woman, Lauren DeSalvo set goals for herself. She was determined to be the best she could be at anything she set her mind to. Her parents, Joe and Sharon, were behind her all the way as advocates, cheerleaders, and facilitators. When Lauren reached her 20s, her family helped her realize her dream, to find an environment that would encourage her will and drive, and offer her a home appropriate for a young adult beginning to spread her wings. Joe and Sharon connected with WJCS, and this past August, Lauren moved into our newest residence in Sleepy Hollow with 5 other young women. We hope that their experiences and insights will help other families to understand the possibilities available for people with developmental disabilities and inspire them to plan and act on behalf of their children. I'd like to introduce you to some of the people behind the scenes and on the scene in this story of moving into young adulthood. First, Erica McCabe, who is the residence manager at the Sleepy Hollow Hudson Terrace residence. Welcome, Erica.
Thank you very much.
Joe DeSalvo, who is the dad in the family. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you.
Lauren, who is our star resident at Hudson Terrace. Welcome.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us, Lauren.
No problem.
And Sharon, thanks for being in this half as well.
You're quite welcome.
Sharon, Joe, as parents of a child with special needs, you had indicated that you have unique concerns, and these concerns don't start when someone's reaching young adulthood. They start as youngsters growing up. What types of things have been of concern and importance to you throughout the years as Lauren has developed through her school years and beyond?
Well, I guess I would begin with medical concerns. There are certain medical concerns that we've had to follow. It's always been important that whatever Lauren does or needs, that there's follow through with it, that someone's there behind her and someone's there to be an extra set of ears. She's quite capable of doing a lot on her own, but she does need a second set of ears sometimes so that we can be sure that everything that's being done for her, whether it was her education in school, which both of us had an active part in, a trip to the doctor or dentist, or just making sure that she was having fun and doing some nice things with her life and expanding her boundaries. So it was just important that she had somebody there for her.
Mm-hmm.
Another concern was children with disabilities or young adults with disabilities always have is a problem as far as socialization is concerned. It's a very lonely existence for them, as much as upbeat as they try to be, and Lauren is a very upbeat person. But you know, it's interesting that she was growing up, the telephone at the house, when it rang for her younger brother, it never rang for her. So it's a very, another concern that we had is that she found herself in an environment that she would be comfortable in and have friends and have people to interact with, because it's a cruel world out there, and unfortunately when you're a disabled individual going through that, you don't always have those opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Lauren, I think what strikes me so amazing about you is that you really are so sure of yourself, and you really seem to have an amazing sense of yourself. How was it for you in your school years when you were, in terms of socialization, in terms of making a path for yourself?
It was hard because, because I was in a special class. It would be difficult for me to have friends because, they would think, oh, she's in special needs class, so, don't talk to her, or don't, sit with her or anything. And it would be hard other times to, when going to lunchtime, I would sit at a table, and all the people who were sitting at the table would get up and just leave. And, it was lonely, it was sad.
But you did find activities. Your parents talked about you being involved with student advocacy and some other programs.
Yes,
so
I did, yeah. And I was able to make friends out of that, which was great.
So you really found ways to make your voice heard.
Right.
And to take some control for your future. Sharon, you've been involved with advocacy and planning on Lauren's behalf ever since she was a baby. How have you prepared her to become more independent? What do you have to do? What does a parent look toward when they set goals for a young woman to get ready to spread her wings?
I think I was a model for her. I always was there and was actively involved in whatever was going on. And if she needed someone to advocate when she was young, she watched me advocate. And as time went on, Lauren took over a lot of her own responsibilities for that. She joined the student advocacy. She was on the student board of that for a couple of years, as I recall. And she started to learn that it wasn't only herself who needed to have their rights, if you will, defended, and their and help. And I think it's hard for anyone to ask for help, but I think not only have I been a model in seeking out the right people and the right answers and a way to get through whatever it was we were trying to get through, I think I've always admitted that I need help. And I think that was a big thing for Lauren. It's hard to understand that it's not only you who needs help.
Lauren, you went on to New York Institute of Technology. You actually went away to school for a couple of years.
Yes.
What was that experience like?
Very different, because it was my first time away from home, and I didn't know what it was going to be like and what kind of classes I would be taking. But I was able to make a lot of friends there, and it turned out to be a good experience.
Right. How did your family feel when you went off to college and you actually left home? I guess that was a very big step at that point.
Yeah. They were excited for me, because it was my first big step. I think that they were a little worried too. But I think that they were mostly excited because I was going out there and going to college.
Joe, had you imagined that for Lauren as she was growing up?
I've always tried to encourage Lauren to do whatever, to push the edge of the envelope as much as she could. And it's difficult. It was difficult for me as a father to let go. I mean, fathers, I think, for the most part, are overprotective of their daughters. I can safely say that I'm probably one of the most overprotective fathers I know. And I find that a lot of times I have a lot of difficulty in letting go. When she left the school, I was proud, I was nervous, But I did appreciate the phone calls I got every day, because then I knew everything was all right. I'd get that one phone call. The receptionist in the office knew that Lauren was calling. They made sure they got me wherever I was. And we had that, 5-minute conversation just to know that everything was okay. It's something that is a very difficult step. I mean, in any life of any child, you take a child that doesn't have any disabilities. Eventually, they leave a point in time when they do leave the nest. And the input that you've put in is only stops. You're there for kind of support in the background, but whatever you could have done during those formative years is behind you.
Right.
Half the time, the kids don't even want to talk to you. It's
Well,
like,
yeah, we know how that is.
Fortunately, she wanted to talk to me.
Right,
You know,
right.
so it's. I think it's a very interesting mixed bag of emotions and desires.
I think that one of the things that we should say also is there is a great fear. I'm sure I have a son as well, that there's a fear with any child when they leave home. Because as my husband said, you give them whatever you can, and then you have to depend upon them. But Lauren always showed us that she could handle things. She was always saying, don't worry about me, I can do this. But when she left, of course we had our fears because we were entrusting her to someone else. She's going somewhere else. We no longer have control.
Right.
And there's always that worry, will she have someone to protect her if we're not there?
Right. Now, the college situation, as Lauren had said to me, she always could come home on the weekends, and she did, and she wasn't really moved out of your house. Now that the next step, moving to Hudson Terrace and actually moving into a community residence, is really an adult move. It's not going away to school and coming back. It's really moving out and becoming more independent. What was the process that made you think that Lauren would be best in someplace other than your own home?
Lauren has always strived to be independent. She's had jobs since she was 14. She's always wanted to feel a part of a community and to feel like she was doing something within and for the community and having relationships outside just the relationship with her family. And where we live, she was kind of stranded in our house because the transportation wasn't there. There was no bus that came close enough to pick her up. And we worked during the day, and I knew that she needed to be part of society, out there, working, being with other people. Lauren's a really social human being who's fun to be with. And she takes her enjoyment from what she can give to others, and she enjoys what they give back to her. So that was a part of the process. And I think the fact that I really believe in Lauren, and I believe that she can handle it. As I said, of all these years, I've learned a lot about her. And I've learned that she succeeds and that she's a survivor. And so I have confidence in that. And last but not least, I guess, is the fact that we're not always going to be around. We'll probably be around a lot of years. But there'll be a time when we won't be there, and I want someone to be there. I want her to have a unit, that a family type unit, if you will, where she feels comfortable and where she's loved. And this is what WJCS has offered to us, a place where she's comfortable and where she's loved.
I think part of that, which is also important, is that that step occur as early as possible. Because of the fact that it's a phenomenal culture shock if the individual is in their 40s and has been with their parents and then finds out that they need to go someplace where they've developed a lifestyle. I mean, they're going to develop a lifestyle, and it's just best to kind of don't ever underestimate your child. That's one word I can always say. Never do that. Start with the basic assumption that your child can do virtually anything. And encourage your child to move forward and do what they have to do, and just be there to pick them up when they kind of trip. But that's the whole thing of like, let them push. The thing we talk about, her independence. you know, or move for independence. This is a normal this is a normal move. When you think about it, a 23-year-old woman is either going to be in a group home, or she's going to move into the city because of her job, or move someplace else. This is a very normal step.
Right, right. Lauren, you got to meet the young women some of the young women you were living with when you were a teenager. And had you and your friends talked about the possibility of living together and of moving on to a different stage and being together?
To be honest, not really that much, but you know, once we heard, you know, about that, it could be a possibility that we could move into a house together. We were kind of, you know, we were excited, and you know, we started talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because it really sounded like it could work.
Right.
You know.
Right. Were you and your friends worried that it would be difficult to live together in that way? I mean, you had lived in a dorm. I don't think the other women had been on their own before.
No, a lot of them, the others haven't been on their own. So this is like their first time.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, what I try to do is just to be there for them, you know, to tell them I know how they're feeling, because I went through, you know, a lot of what they did. And
right,
yeah.
right.
I think also I have to say that having Lauren move out and live close to us, Lauren has 2 houses. She's back and forth all the time. Her room is still there, and it's getting to be very seamless when she comes home and she goes back to her house. And it's been, that gives us all comfort, I think, that she has 2 homes.
Mm-hmm. Were you ever unsure that you were ready to separate from each other at this stage, or did you prepare yourself well enough to say this is a natural step and we're going on?
I think the college experience did help, primarily because of the fact that she was living away from home and was home like in a normal sequence of vacations, occasionally on long weekends or whatever. And the way I dealt with it, which was one of, for lack of a better phrase, was denial. When we finally got finished with college, you know, we were approaching this whole scenario of the house will be ready at a certain time, and I said, well, this is very much like college. You've got your summer off, and then you're going to go to the house, and then we're going to go away on vacation, we're going to do this, you know. And at that point in time, I dealt with it very nicely that way, because I said, oh, it's a normal situation. But as we got closer, and finally when she was moving, you know, a little voice in the back of my head said, this isn't college anymore, this is the real thing. And you start getting used to it. I think the thing which is really nice is the fact that we're very fortunate that this particular house is close to where we live. It's a lot easier than being in a car for an hour and a half or 2 hours to go visit her. So it makes things very, very convenient for us to kind of be in touch with each other. And I think that's really helped out tremendously.
Erica, let's talk a little bit about setting up a home like this and what it takes to make a unit out of 6 young women at this stage in their lives, coming from different backgrounds, coming from homes where there's been so much love and care and hopes for them. What does it take to make a unit out of that home?
I think a lot of patience, a lot of caring, a lot of love, and when I mean patience on our part as staff, and also patience from the parents. Because we are just learning these fine young women, and they've been with their parents for many years. And the parents have been very helpful to us. I have to say also the girls themselves have been very helpful to each other. They have been there for one another from the first day that they stepped into the house. They have all been there for each other. And I remember when each of them had their little moment of that, oh my God, this is it. I'm really staying here. And it was so nice. I'm going to give the example of Lauren, who was really there for each of them, saying, listen, I've been through this before, and don't worry, you'll get through this, and this is going to be a nice home. I mean, they are really making it a unit, and they are really making it their home. I mean, it's so wonderful that I mean, they picked out the furniture, they picked out their rooms, they picked out the color of their rooms. I barely answer the phone when they're there because guess what? This is their house and they answer I mean, it really is their home and they make it a unit.
Lauren, what's a day like at Hudson Terrace?
What's that?
I know that you all take turns doing different chores and getting involved.
Right. Well, you know, at night, you know, different days of the week, somebody cooks. One of the girls cooks, and with the help of the staff, you know, and you know, we all go out during the day, like to work or a day program, and then we all get like dropped off at like different times. You know, and then we decide who's gonna cook and who's gonna set the table. You know, and it's
so everyone has to take some part of responsibility for making sure that things are running well. Right. And when I was there the other day, some people were going to the gym, and some, you know, it seemed like there were a lot of different things going on. What's the process of deciding who does what? You know, is it everyone sit down together, or you just have a schedule, take turns?
There's a schedule for who, like, is to prepare the meal and what kind of chores the person does over the week. Like if it's like sweeping the kitchen or you know, clearing the table or putting the dishwasher on, you know, whatever.
So are these all things that are new to everyone, that were you involved in cooking and
yeah,
doing things?
I have been involved with cooking and stuff like that.
I think some of the girls, this is a new experience for them, doing some of those chores that they didn't have to do at home. So it definitely has been an interesting experience, especially an example of our vacuum cleaner, who is like this monster of a machine, who I found out myself. It's difficult, but they do, and they also help each other with their chores, I think, which is really nice. And I think with the activities also, I have to say, it's never a dull moment there. And when we plan on a really slow, kind of let's stay in house type of an evening, the girls pipe up and say, basically, no way. Like, example, I need my nails done. You know, let's all go, or let's go out and get a movie, or let's go to the movie, or hey, what's happening here? Or on Friday, they went to Bleachers, and they, you know, went to karaoke night, and they all had a wonderful time there, and plays, and I mean, they really do get out of the house, and they really do things. They're not just in-house kind of hanging out.
So these type of social activities and this type of social life is probably different than what you had experienced when Lauren was home. We only have a couple more minutes, and I'd like to get some sense of what goals you all have for the future. Erica, you are working alongside of these women who really have made a very significant step in their lives. What kind of goals do you have for them as you look ahead to the next few weeks and years as a family?
I think in the next few weeks and few months, I think I'd like to see a little bit more stability. because they are kind of going here and there and everywhere. And one of my staff had said, at one point she said, when are we going to have our girls? Do you know what I mean? So where they're really all within the house and they're really all enjoying themselves. And I think I see within the years, I see some of my girls actually moving on, being in their own apartments and me coming to visit them. I see some of my girls there, and that's a wonderful feeling for me. And I see my girls moving on within themselves and doing a lot more things that they want to accomplish. They have goals that they have expressed to us, and we are looking forward to meeting their goals that they have for themselves.
Okay, Lauren, how about your goals for yourself?
I hope that, one day that I could maybe have my own place. But for right now, I like where I'm at.
So this is the realization of one dream, but yet you still have more goals and more ideas about how you can fulfill yourself in other ways.
Yeah, and I think that other people should really think about what they want to do with their life, and really, if you have a dream, just go with it, because I think anything is really possible.
Sharon, Joe.
She took my words, so that wouldn't be the first time that's happened to me. I know Sharon's far more eloquent than I am when it comes to this stuff, but I really think that the key is that she become as happy and as independent as possible. There are certain things that she does in her life that I supplied for her, where Sharon and I supplied, and there are certain simple pleasures in life that she has. And the goal is that there'll be a time when she doesn't have to worry about us, that she will be able to take care of those little desires, the special meals that she likes, or go someplace, or whatever it is, and not have to rely rely on us. I mean, right now it's great to see her every weekend, but to me, I'm going to be very happy when weekends come by, when all of a sudden I just get the phone call saying, hi, everything's okay, we're really busy, maybe I'll see you next weekend. I mean, that to me in the short run is a really good thing.
Right. So we're really out of time, and I know, Sharon, you have shared your ideas.
I think that I hope for Lauren's happiness and her safety and her success. And I'm confident that, given the opportunity that we've given her now, that she will accomplish everything that she wants to. I feel we have an extremely strong staff and relationship with WJCS. To a person, they're the best people I've ever met. And I feel that Lauren has so much going for her, that she also can succeed at whatever she wants to. So
I thank you, because I don't think anyone could have told this story more beautifully, and that I know that you have suffered with your sinus, but you really did a wonderful job, and I thank you all for letting us hear your experiences. If anyone wants additional information about community residential care through WJCS or the FAD program or any of our other services, you can give us a call at 761-0600, extension 205. Thank you and good night.